If everybody would take their seats, and if you could please do myself and our guests the honor of making sure that your cell phones are off, pagers are off. So once we finish this workshop, we will be doing a sacred ritual. And I don't want to have any interruptions. And those of you that are going to be doing these, it's probably one of the first things that you're going to want to tell the guests when everybody gets seated before you start the ceremony. Going over a few things about hand fasting. Give you a little history and the background of it to start with. The word hand fasting actually originated pretty much in the British Isles. There's some that will say that it went back to the Sumerian times, but it's very similar to today's common law marriages. Couples simply performed a very simple ritual in front of witnesses by joining hands and declaring themselves united as a couple. The deal was usually sealed with a kiss. Does that sound just a little bit familiar? The regional gesture was to cross hands right to right, left to left, forming a figure eight. This was symbolizing a joining of all parts of their body, spirit, soul, their entire being. Now, during the Renaissance, some of the English noblemen, interesting choice of words there, noblemen, who had mistresses, would wed their mistresses as well as their wives. This type of hand fasting was done left to left. This was also known as a Morganite marriage back in the day. So another bit of lore was the drinking from 2 glasses from basically 1 jug. How many times have you attended a wedding or a hand fasting or a ritual where the couple raises a toast and they intertwine arms and drink from it? But again, that stuff all happened in Christianity. So, many peasants, pagans, heathens performed hand fastings because there was no need to worry about things like prenuptials, money, estates, anything at that time. Most of these people had nothing more than the clothes on their backs when they joined. But they were in love and they wanted to signify their joining. Now we go back to good old jolly old England again. 1753, England outlawed hand fastings and declared a marriage only legal if you used an ordained minister or priest. Well, and the word they used was paid clergy. Interesting thing was it didn't stop the practice, because just over the border in Scotland, hand fastings were still legal. Even in modern day, I think there's a few of us that can remember, oh yeah, they jumped the border to the other state to get married because it was legal to marry under 18 at that time. So that practice didn't stop until 1939 when Scotland said, hold on, this isn't working for us, enough is enough. So they stopped it. So it pretty much lost its meaning over the years. That was until the 1950s and the repealing of all of the witchcraft laws in England. Joe Gardner, Doreen Valentine, reenacted the use of the hand fasting word since there was no legally ordained clergy at the time. Keep in mind we get that little clergy law that's still sitting out there. So if you were a hardcore Gardnerian, you were to be hand fasted to your magical partner over time and space, to be bound for this life and all future lives to come. Theoretically, you would meet up with your former soulmate and renew your vows each time that you met. Keep in mind, it was also important to them that your partner had to be of the opposite sex. But enter in Z Budapest and her feminist Wiccan tradition in the 60s, hand fasting got a new term, and it was called a tryst. So that was instead of a hand fasting for same-sex marriages. Today, most hand fastings are open, or in the past they were a closed ritual, usually done only with coven members. Now, peoples of all faith rejoice together to celebrate the unity of this day long past. This modern era, we will see traditional male-female marriages, same-sex, multi-partner or poly, and family hand fastings. Now, hand fasting can be very simple. Today we're going to see something between a simple and an elaborate. We already know what the Gardnerians refer to it as, but in this day and age there's more to a hand fasting, and it's a very spiritual event. In my experience, a piece of paper does not make you a legally joined couple. In the eyes of the law it does, but two people who have an open heart, open mind, open spirit, and have a genuine love for each other can be joined, and quite frankly should be. So, simple hand fasting will consist of a priest or a priestess. Couple will present a contract. Now the one that we'll be using for later today is just a simple 2-page contract that the couple has come up with in their own words. You need to encourage them to write this contract in their own words, because it's a bond between the two of them. Don't write the contract for them. It's just a bad idea, because you're trying to put words in their mouth. The other thing that you're going to want to do in advance is have them write their vows. The couple, Dan and Allison, have each written out their own vows that they'll read during the ritual. Now, Karelian tradition, we do things with a little bit more pomp and circumstance to it. We have it a little bit more elaborate. And I think, quite frankly, it's a very beautiful ceremony. During that, rather than just having the couple, the mother will lead the procession in. The patriarchal sense of even our tradition is based on that. And I think it's a nice gesture. Now, as you go forward in this, you may be asked to perform a same-sex ritual. Nothing wrong with it, as I mentioned. Two people that are in love should have that ability. Now, keep in mind that in many states, same-sex marriages are illegal. This is more of a spiritual bonding than anything. And you have to keep that in mind as you go forward in doing that. But it means it's nonetheless meaningful. Treat it with the same reverence that you would a standard male-female bonding. So, you also have where you're going to have poly or multiple person joinings. This one gets a little bit more tricky because you have male, male, female, male, 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 female, female. There's a whole plethora of combinations that you can do. And you can also do couples that are joined as well, so two couples. These are purely symbolic, and they are absolutely not sanctioned by any state in the Union that I know of. And I don't think there's any country that does that. Probably the most beautiful hand fasting I've ever seen is what I refer to as a blended family. Mom and dad, in most cases, have both divorced. They've both got children that they've had from their previous relationships. And what happens is the couple is joined, but the children join in as well. And the cords, their hands are also tied with the cords and the ribbons. There's many reasons that I think this is beautiful. First and foremost is the fact that I think it actually helps two individual families blend and assimilate into one. It actually is including the children in probably one of the most sacred rituals that they will ever be involved in, above and beyond their own families, and when they get married or hand fasted. It also is a joining of households. So there's a lot of symbolism to it, but at the same token, I think it's also almost a healing event. Because in some cases, both of these families may have not had a very good time leading up to this blessed event. So, let's go ahead and required tools and checklists. One of the things you want to do is actually make yourself a hand-fasting checklist. Lady Greenow will agree with me. Precision and preparation is the essence of a good event. And if you write down everything that you want to have and what the couple wants to have, you will have a successful event. And that's the most important thing, because you're orchestrating this for the couple. This is their day. You're not making the music, you're the conductor. You're just leading the band as they play the music. Obviously, you're going to be doing the great rite. You're going to want an athame. And with the athame, you're going to have the chalice. Male, female. Usually you're going to use wine or juice. Our couple's made an unusual request. Our chalice is filled with Mountain Dew. But again, that's where preparation comes into it in meeting with the couple. You're going to want to have cakes. Now, this can be done like we're doing today with simple little tiny muffins to be used by the couple, and then the third one is for the ancestors. In some of the more elaborate rituals that you'll do, you'll have what's called a twisted bread. It's a sweet bread that you can make. The couple will partake of it, and then a herald will walk through and share it with everyone else in attendance. Cords and ribbons. This is an individual choice in many cases. The couple, in most cases, will want to pick the colors, and you should let them, so that there's a symbolism for them as they go forward with things. The chords depend pretty much on what you're doing in the event. Leave that magic. Chords are here. I knew I'd put them in a safe place, just didn't remember where. So here today we've got a braided 3-chord handfasting that we're going to be using. Thank you, Lady Anna, or Annie and Christina. Make sure that the colors and the couple understand the meanings of the colors that they're choosing. You can pick up anywhere on the internet these days, understanding of basic colors. As I mentioned, the contract should be an expression of their love and devotion to each other. It needs to be personal, and obviously you want to have it written. One of the things that I wasn't able to do that I would have liked to have done was you can get parchment paper now that will come off of any laser inkjet printer. Gives a nice touch to it. The other thing that I've seen done is they will take that parchment and then they'll take a lighter and they will singe the edges of it. So this, after we've gone through all of that preparation and we're all set, you want to have a meeting with the couple prior to the event, and you want to do a run-through. It's important that you do a run-through. Now obviously, one of the things you're going to want to do, and this is something that I've done, I've seen Lord Don have one of these, get yourself a leather-bound book and cut and paste in the ritual, so that you're not holding a bunch of flimsy pieces of paper, running around and looking like you don't know what you're doing. Have everything out for you. Today I'm lucky enough to have Lady Christina as my herald, who will be doing all the running around and doing all the little things so that we can concentrate on the event. Now the fun stuff. Didn't know there was fun stuff, did you? You have to deal with extraneous items besides the ritual itself and the planning of it. Part of that are the legalities of doing it. As legally ordained clergy, you have certain requirements that must be done. Now, most of you have gotten a handout of the state requirements list. Go through there and take a look at your individual state, because some of you will go through the proverbial hell that I don't believe in. I actually feel sorry for the person that has to perform illegal hand fasting in the city of New York City. You have more hoops that are usually filled with flames, razor blades, and alligators on the other side to go through to make sure that it's done. One of the things that you are obviously going to want to have with you at all times is your tradition certificate with your number on it, etc. You will be required and need to show this to the Register of Deeds, the city, state, county, or whoever is running the marriage license. It is important that you are able to present your credentials and prove who you are. Yes?
There was one question came up, and we are from Pennsylvania. Do you have to be a third degree to be, or you give the title Reverend to first degree? If they get the certificate, someone that is first degree can actually go to the courts and do that?
You can do that, yes. All right. Keep in mind, you're going to have a legal document that's going to be presented to you by the Register of Deeds. In doing so, you are signing a legal document. It is your responsibility to make sure that that document is filed back with the Register of Deeds of that local municipality within the designated days. It's usually 3 days from the event. Okay? And it will tell you where and when that filing has to be when you have all of the paperwork in place. Now, a couple little tools and some things. There are basically a plethora of books that are out there that you can get. Here's one by Raven Caldera, Handfasting and Wedding Rituals, inviting Herod's Blessing. Magical Weddings by George Ferguson. I like this book. If you want to learn about the history of hand fasting, to really delve into it very deeply, excellent book to read on that. And then, of course, Passages, Pagan Guide to Committed Rituals. Again, another very nice book that's out there. Don't believe that your ritual has to be written a certain way. There is no such thing as the right way and the wrong way to write a ritual for a hand fasting. It's what you and the couple decide upon. Get some books. Read and take a look at different rituals that are out there. You may find 3 or 4 different things that you want to combine into one. Ani and I were privileged enough to sit with Dominic last night and learn some things that he's doing in England that we think are really awesome, and we're going to incorporate into some future rituals and hand fastings for us. Make sure that everything that you're doing with this is done with the proper reverence and the proper ceremony for the couple. You are doing them a service. Please keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that this is a blessed event. Have fun with it, enjoy it, and make it the special day that it's supposed to be for the couple. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Peter?
Yes.
I actually wanted to, if you don't mind, add one small note on the legalities.
Please.
Don't just check your state laws, check your county laws. Nevada is a prime example. In all but the 2 big counties where Reno is and Vegas is, it's really easy to go through the procedures to do legal marriages. In Reno and in Vegas, the laws are much, much different. You actually have to have a physical church building in certain zoning with a certain number of people. It's horrible because marriage is a business there. So don't just check your state, but whatever county you're doing the wedding in, check with them also.
Good point.
Sorry, I just want,
Oh, no.
I ran into it,
That's,
so I
that's
wanted
one of the
to.
things that I was mentioning with New York City. I
Yeah.
mean, when I talk about hoops, you have to check the local municipality, your county, your state, across the board. Yes?
Sometimes people just do hand fastings and it's supposed to be just a spiritual commitment. Be real careful that you tell the person it's only a spiritual commitment, because if 10 years down the line I'm living with someone and we buy a house and they come back and say, well, she told me it was a legal marriage and it doesn't count in that state. Either you're getting married with a hand fasting or you're not.
Correct.
And that,
And if I may, that goes the other way too. Make sure they understand if they're having a ceremonial hand fasting or a legal marriage.
Okay.
Because I've seen people misunderstand both ways.
I'm a little anal about certain things, so I go another mile. What I do is I have them on the certificate, I say it's not legal, not a legal marriage. And then when they sign that, they come back to me later and say it's anything, no honey, you signed this statement, this was strictly a hand fasting, this was not meant for legal use. And therefore you keep yourself clear. Make sure they sign something that they know, either on the form itself or on a separate piece of paper to keep you out of hot water. You do not want your reputation going through that.
I wanted to ask about trial hand fasting during the day. How do you differentiate? Is there any difference in your ceremony, in the ritual for you?
During the actual vows, you work that into the vows, that it is a year and a day. And that's pretty much the only difference that you're going to do. In most cases, you're going to keep track of it in your individual records, and you may issue a certificate that states specifically that it is just a year and a day. Everybody?
There's also, as Don was saying, we kind of got slightly sidetracked, needing to make sure that if it is a legally binding one, that the couple or partners in question understand that legal today means legal 10 years from now, and you can't come back later and say, oh, well, it was only a pagan priest.
There's no such thing as
Because
a
we've had that
legal
happen. You know, it's either legal or it's not.
And
Today, tomorrow.
the thing that I would add, that perhaps should be said, is that if you make anything clear to your couple at all, above all, make sure you're making clear the difference between ceremonial and legal, so that they can make a clear choice.
All right, any other questions? All right, with that, let us prepare to hand fast our couple.